Hello and welcome to the ClassUp New Tutor Orientation. Today, now that you've all completed your onboarding and enrollment tasks, we'll be walking you through the best practices and most common situations when starting up your career at ClassUp. We thank you all for tuning into this recording of our ClassUp webinars and encourage you to attend a live webinar if you so choose on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays held weekly. One important note is if you have not already, please head to tutor.classup.com to download our ClassUp Teacher mobile app. This app will allow you to access most of ClassUp's features from your mobile devices, either Android or iOS. You may send messages to your students and ClassUp staff members using the chat tab. You can manage your classes and class feedback on the classroom tab, and you can update, cancel, or reschedule lessons using your booking tab. Once again, visit tutor.classup.com/download for all available links. Today's first topic will be opening time slots on your ClassUp calendar. You can access your calendar from the booking tab, which is the central tab on your ClassUp top bar. We do booking a little bit differently at ClassUp than some other companies you may be familiar with. Many other companies ask you to block times off your calendar you are unavailable to work and assume that you are available at any time you have not blocked off. We are the opposite. We ask you to open times on your calendar that you are available to work, and we'll assume you cannot work at any time you have not chosen to open yourself. This gives you full and complete control of your calendar. However, if you choose not to open any times on your calendar, we cannot give you any students. So we recommend that you make it a routine, at least once or twice a week, to check your ClassUp booking tab and open as many times as you feel comfortable. Next are two calendar slides back to back to demonstrate the process of opening time slots. Time slot opening is very easy on the ClassUp app. All you need to do from your booking tab is select the time you would like to open, for example, 4 to 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, and select how long you would need to open the time. You can open times in periods of 1 week, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, or up to 12 weeks in a row. We recommend opening time slots for as many hours concurrently as you can, because we meet with our students generally, regularly, and weekly. So a student on your calendar may be meeting with you for the entirety of a semester or even a full school year. Given that, try to open times on your calendar that are going to be regularly available, rather than times that might only be available for 1 week and then not the others. Another feature on your calendar to pay note of is the 24-hour booking button located in the top central of your calendar. The 24-hour booking feature is turned off by default, but you can turn it on if you so choose. And doing so will signal to our team that you are available to take students with less than 24 hours of notice beforehand. This can happen in situations of teacher cancellations and we need to find a substitute on short notice, or if a parent calls our service looking for a teacher placement on short notice. In either case, if you turn this on, you will receive students with less than 24 hours notice, but never more than 2 hours notice. Or rather, never less than 2 hours notice. If you leave this in the off position, you will always receive a minimum of 24 hours notice before any student is booked on your calendar. The next feature of your calendar is the recurring class times function. In the top center of your booking tab, you will also see the option to open time slots for recurring class times. This allows you to open times that are available only for your recurring students and will repeat every single week. You do not have to worry about these times being selected for trial lessons. These will be only available for your long-term students if you want to offer options, for example, rescheduling options for students or students that want to meet multiple times per week, or students that like to move their times around on your calendar depending on the week. Know that these times on your recurring time slot calendar will remain open every single week. If you open them for 1 week, please know that they will continue to remain open and available. So this saves you a bunch of time when it comes to managing your calendar down the road. Please make use of the recurring class time function, as it will save you and I and everyone on the ClassUp team time and effort. The next section of our talk today will concern primarily trial lessons and the intricacy of how trial lessons function in our company. After you open time on your calendar, you will receive your first trial lesson, and you may all be wondering exactly what a trial lesson is. Trial lessons are free first lessons that we offer to our students and parents as a service to sample what ClassUp tutoring is all about. While they are free to students and parents, you will still receive your full compensation for these lessons, but we have a unique set of communication regarding the ways in which trial lessons are conducted. The first thing you will receive when a trial lesson is booked on your calendar is an email and text-based notification with your student's name, the subject they are meeting with you with, and when the lesson is booked. You will also receive any additional information that we happen to have about the student at the time we make the lesson. This can include subject specificity, grade level details, homework and classwork options from teachers and parents, any other notes that our sales team has gathered, and any other information pertinent to your student. Naturally, this can vary. For some students, you will receive lots of information prior to the start of your trial. Other students, you may receive comparatively little. If you are looking for more information about your students, please consult your ClassUp chat tab. The chat tab, or the rightmost tab on your app, will contain all messages between you and our ClassUp staff members, including the educational consultant team, who are here to send you updates about your students. Those updates will contain everything we receive from parents and students, so check your chat tab frequently to make sure you're receiving updates. You can also find information about students by visiting your student's profile. From the Classroom tab, which is the leftmost tab on the ClassUp app, select the Upcoming tab on the left-hand side, which, as its name would suggest, shows you a list of upcoming students. Once you've selected the Upcoming tab, you can pilot to the name of the student in question. For example, if I wanted to learn more about my student Jessica, I might look for Jessica's name and select this button highlighted in red. Depending on when you view this button, the name will say two different things, either Classroom or View Materials, but it is the same button, and clicking this button will take you to a profile of your student containing all information you've been able to source at the time you click the button. Once you have reviewed information about your student, check the ClassUp chat as well as your student's profile. The only thing left for you to do is to prepare for your lessons. At ClassUp, we do not require you to prepare for your lessons in any specific way. You may prepare in whatever way fits your style as a teacher best. If you are the type of teacher that likes to prepare slideshows and lesson plans and PowerPoint presentations before your lesson starts, you are free to do so with your own time. However, if you are the type of tutor who likes to improvise and log into your lesson and talk to the student and see what they're looking for, you may also do that as well. We do not require you to prepare in any specific style. Last but not least, the only thing remaining after a successful trial and long-term lesson is to fill out a class feedback note. Class feedback notes are submitted at the end of each lesson at ClassUp, and they are short, maximum 2 to 3 sentence notes that we send to students and parents as a form of exit ticket to confirm the lesson occurred. Class feedback notes are due no later than 24 hours after the end of a lesson, and you can fill them out in one of two ways. First, by using a pop-up window that occurs at the end of each of your lessons that will prompt you to fill ClassUp feedback right there. If you do not choose to fill feedback out at the end of your lesson, you can access previous class feedback on the same Classroom tab as we mentioned our student profile. However, we mentioned the All Classes tab instead of the Upcoming tab. Once you have done so, select the student in question and hit the Class Feedback button to fill out late class feedback. Please know that you may receive a 50% deduction in accrued incentives if you do not fill out class feedback within 24 hours of your lesson ending. Now, a note on the educational consultant team. At ClassUp, our educational consultant team, or EC team, plays our vital sales role at the company. They are responsible for selling lesson packages, communicating with students and parents, and offering deals for sign-up bonuses for our students. Because of the EC team, you never need to worry about the salesmanship of a lesson. The educational consultants will take care of the selling. You can focus exclusively on the education. But because there is quite a bit of salesmanship that goes on in trial lessons, educational consultants will be involved in your trial lessons in a small degree. Firstly, educational consultants will be sending you updates about your students, so look for messages from their team in your ClassUp chat tab, as well as managing your students' profiles. Next, you may meet some educational consultants as they log into the very beginning of your classes. Educational consultants may be present for the first minute or two of each of your trial lessons to help make sure you are introduced to your student and vice versa, as well as taking care of any technical issues that may have arisen at the beginning of your lesson. After this, they will leave the class and you will be free to teach the class as you choose. Educational consultants finally will return to the lesson at the end of a trial class with maybe a minute or two left to go to take a handoff from you into a sales presentation. You do not need to be present for this sales presentation. You are free to leave at the end of your 50 minutes of tutoring, but it's useful to give a sort of handoff to the education consultant team, including a quick summary of your lesson for that day and saying something along the lines of, "It was fantastic to meet you today. Thank you so much for coming to my lesson, and I'm looking forward to working with you next week. And here is my fantastic coworker who is going to lead you through a presentation." Afterwards, you are free to leave, and the educational consultants will handle the rest. Now let's talk about a couple of tricky trial class situations and what to do if these things happen to you. Firstly, what if my student doesn't upload any homework or assessments or information about themselves at all? What happens if I'm going into my lesson and I haven't received any updates about my student besides their name and the grade they're looking for? This is totally fine and can happen from time to time. If this happens, it's because the parent has chosen not to share any information with us. It's not because we're withholding any information from you. It's simply because we may not have gotten the parent on the phone, or they've been cagey in offering details about their students. But in any case, we're going to try our best to make sure that we have a good and successful trial class, even when we have little information about our students. We recommend converting the first 10 minutes or so of your trial lesson to fact-finding, talking to your student and introducing yourself, asking them what they're looking for today, what they may be struggling with in class, or how you may be able to best help them as their tutor. But very clearly, this is not a situation in which we would cancel a lesson or email the support staff at ClassUp worrying about what to do. Next, what happens if your student doesn't show up for class at all? Unfortunately, these do happen from time to time, and they're referred to as student no-shows. For trial lessons, we ask that you remain on a call in the case of a student no-show for a maximum of 10 minutes, and at that 10-minute mark, you are free to leave the call. You will be compensated for 30% of your lesson time for your 10 minutes of effort. Please note that this policy is slightly different for long-term students. When you have a student who is signed up to meet with you long-term, this is a student that is meeting with you every single week at the same time every week, we do ask that you remain on the call for the duration of the 50 minutes of your lesson. You can mute your camera and grab a snack or stretch your legs or do something else with your time, but be available to rejoin the call should your student log in late. The reason for this is because you will be receiving your full compensation for the lesson, regardless if the student shows up or not, and the student has already paid for the time with a student credit. So we want to give them whatever percentage of the class we have left to give, should they be running late or something has come up. But in the case of trial lessons, once again, please do leave at that 10-minute mark. Last but not least, if your trial class student cancels on you and you receive a notice that a trial class has been canceled, this also does happen from time to time. And we ask that no further action is required on your end. You do not need to attempt to contact the student or the parent or our ClassUp staff team, as we are already working on the rescheduling situation for you. All you need to do is make sure to keep your availability as open and up to date as possible so that we have as many choices as we can to find a time to reschedule. Our next section of our orientation today will be covering long-term classes. Of course, long-term classes are the goal for all of our trial lessons at ClassUp. Long-term education is a win-win-win for everybody involved. They help stabilize your ClassUp calendar and create consistent work. They help unlock incentives to increase your income. And most importantly, they empower us to make that lasting, meaningful change in our students' academic lives, which is why we're all here doing this job. Long-term education, everybody wins. So our goal is to convert as many of these students as possible into long-term students. Of course, there will be some situations where we simply do not have any efficacy in converting a student. Sometimes a parent had no desire to sign up with us in the first place. They just wanted a free lesson and then to go on their merry way. But in the vast majority of situations, we have a lot of efficacy and a lot of agency when it comes to convincing parents and demonstrating our value to them as educators. We're going to be talking now about how best to do this by maintaining professionalism, actively communicating with students and parents, and utilizing the ClassUp suite of materials to improve the quality of your lessons. Firstly, a note on ClassUp memberships. For your long-term lessons, they will be signing up to meet with you regularly and weekly, with a minimum duration of 24 weeks, which is one full semester of tutoring. This is a minimum duration. Sometimes students will sign up for longer than one semester, sometimes up to 1 or 2 years, but frequency will be a minimum of once per week. Occasionally, this frequency can scale up to 2 or 3 times a week, but typically a student will be meeting with you once per week. Long-term lessons happen at the same time every week. If they decide to meet with you on a Wednesday at 4 p.m., they will meet you at Wednesday at 4 p.m. every week for the entire semester, unless otherwise noted on the ClassUp app. Also, ClassUp membership students expect to meet with the same teacher every single week. It's one of the cornerstones of our offering, so you can build up that long-term relationship with your students. Another note on long-term lessons is that rather than working with the education consultants team, long-term lessons are managed by a different team of ClassUp staff members called the Learning Partner team. Learning partners are your case managers. They will be working with you to manage your class load, communicate with all of your long-term students, and handle conversations and coordination with parents. You will quickly become best friends with your learning partner as they will be here to assist you in many capacities of communication, including delivering feedback. Feedback calls are absolutely vital in maintaining continuity in long-term lessons, and we deliver essential feedback calls during the end of a first lesson, the end of a first cycle, which is the first 4 lessons of tutoring, the end of a semester, and the end of a school year. These feedback calls are essential to delivering a good product at long-term pace, and we have walkthroughs of how to deliver these different sorts of feedback calls available on our ClassUp Resource Hub. Now, some expectations regarding professionalism and conduct in ClassUp lessons. At ClassUp, we have basic expectations of professionalism that fall in line with general expectations when working in an online education space. Concerning your attire, behavior, style of communication, and vocabulary, we recommend that you shoot for middle school classroom teacher. The general age range of our students are from 2nd to 9th grade, although we do have some older and younger students as well. But in general, do not wear, speak, or behave in a manner that would not be fitting of a classroom teacher. A particular note on your setting: if you are a tutor who happens to be tutoring from an uncontrolled location, for example, you are an active college student and are tutoring from a dorm or public location like a coffee shop or a park, or if you are working from home and happen to have a family with perhaps children or pets or something else that may or may not be running behind your camera, consider using a virtual background or blurring out your backgrounds just to avoid anything unpredicted running behind you. Most importantly, we have a baseline expectation of timeliness to all of our lessons. Without exception, we expect our tutors to be on time to all of their lessons, barring, of course, emergency situations. Please, whatever you need to do to make this happen is what we expect, whether that means logging in a minute or 2 early to your lesson to make sure your tech is working correctly, or scheduling in breaks between your classes to make sure that you have time to stretch your legs, eat some food, and take care of whatever you need to take care of. Please take care of whatever logistical measures you need in order to make sure you are on time for all of your lessons without exception. Because we do have expectations of professionalism and policy at ClassUp, there are some penalties in place should you choose to not follow these expectations. Please note that this is not an exhaustive list, and if you have any questions related to or regarding any penalties in your ClassUp contract, please send a message to our tutor support line or consult your independent contractor agreement signed before employment. Firstly, failing to attend a lesson scheduled on your calendar is referred to as a teacher no-show and can disqualify you from monetary incentives for your lessons. Repeated teacher no-shows can lead to contract termination. Firstly, let us be very clear that a teacher no-show is never an emergency situation. If you are having a personal emergency, if someone has gotten sick, if you have gotten injured, if there has been a power outage or other emergency that has caused you to miss a lesson, please try to get in contact with our ClassUp operations team using the tutor.classup.com website to find resources, or emailing tutor-support@classup.com to let us know what is happening. As long as you are actively communicating with our team, we can avoid unsavory teacher no-show situations. By contrast, a teacher no-show situation is a lack of communication. Once your lesson has started, if we have called you, texted you, and emailed you trying to track you down, and you're not present in your lesson, we have no choice but to assume it is a teacher no-show situation. The moral of this story is please actively communicate with members of our team to let us know what is going on in the case of any last-minute emergency. The same logic applies to cancellations. We understand that emergencies happen, but last-minute cancellations are also of grave importance at ClassUp. Repeated last-minute cancellations with less than 24 hours of notice can lead to contract termination. Once again, let us know if something is going on, and we will do our best to account for it. If you need to cancel a lesson with more than 24 hours of notice, please feel free to do so, but know that frequent cancellations, even if they are timely, can lead to a temporary hold on new students while we reassess your availability. Last but not least, at ClassUp, we define problematic attendance as any time a tutor is more than 5 minutes late to the start of a lesson or ends a lesson more than 5 minutes early. Repeated problematic attendance can disqualify you from accruing monetary incentives for your lessons. We've already discussed timeliness. Please do everything in your power to be on time for all of your lessons without exception. Also, do not end any of your lessons early. This regards you choosing to end your lesson early rather than a student choosing to end a lesson early. If you have a student who leaves their classroom or decides that they are done with tutoring, this will not count against you necessarily. But if you are delivering a good lesson and your student has no desire to leave, please do not click the end lesson button more than 5 minutes early. Our last section today will be involving using ClassUp materials to enhance your lessons. Of course, as independent contractors, you are free to use any materials that you would like during your lessons, but we have prepared a suite of ClassUp materials that we strongly suggest that you take a look at as we advertise these materials to parents, and many students are very excited to work with our customized curriculum. Our first material involves ClassUp content assessments. Before the start of most trial lessons, students are sent a content assessment to place them either at grade level, above grade level, or below grade level, at whatever subject they're looking for support. The results of these assessments will be sent to you through the ClassUp app, and you may do with them what you wish. If you would like to read the assessments and brief yourself on your student's performance prior to the lesson start, you may do so. If you would like to put the assessment results into a PDF, slide deck, or other presentation and walk your student through their answers, you are also free to do so as well. Please use content assessments to gain more insight into your students, as parents will be looking for response and feedback from these assessments. The subjects that we are currently assessing include K through 8th grade English and mathematics, as well as Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. But we are constantly adding new assessments, and by the end of the calendar year 2023, we expect to have a full suite of K through 12 assessments prepared for tutors to use. Our next resource involves our ClassUp Math Question Bank. If you are a mathematics tutor, you have access to a built-in problem set question bank to prepare custom problem sets for your students at any time you choose. To access this problem bank, all you need to do is head to your student's profile, pictured on the left, and hit the Click Problem Set button to create a unique problem set you can upload into the classroom as a homework resource, classroom problem set, or other material. If you are already in your ClassUp classroom, pictured on the right, you can access this class bank or this question bank by clicking the question bank button in the bottom of the classroom and hitting the Add Question button at the top of the screen. From here, you can drag questions of your choice onto the ClassUp whiteboard and work with them live with your student. Next, if you are watching the recording of this orientation, please take a moment to take a screenshot or copy down this link to access the ClassUp Tutor Resource Center. Our ClassUp Tutor Resource Center on Google Drive is your one-stop shop for all materials that we have produced to help students succeed at ClassUp. The ClassUp Resource Center is constantly evolving and changing, so check back on a weekly basis to see new materials that we have created, but a quick walkthrough of what you can expect to see at the time you look today. We have folders full of templates for you to use during your lessons if you would like presentation walkthroughs of how to introduce yourself or how to deliver good feedback at the end of your lessons. We have recordings of our ClassUp webinars and training materials and tutor tips newsletters if you would like to brief yourself on best practices. We also have a folder of curriculum, practice materials, and homework full of problem sets, homework resources, and other materials for ELA and math classes. Just one example for math and ELA can be found on the slide below. Next, we have a folder of app tutorials. If you'd like to learn more about the function of the ClassUp app and how to best use the resources therein, access the walkthroughs, both video and text-based, in the app tutorials folder. Last but not least, the bottom two buttons are of the most importance, and they are our online classroom tech problem manual and ClassUp Tutor Best Practices website. These resources contain the answers to our most commonly asked questions at ClassUp. So if you have questions related to general operations of the app or what to do or not to do in any given operation situation at ClassUp, please consult these two resources before reaching out to our teams. Finally, to reach out and access support from any of our ClassUp teams, we recommend our ClassUp contact list. For issues involving trial lessons, we recommend reaching out to the education consultant team by checking your app to find your consultant's name and phone number. For long-term lesson issues, we recommend consulting your learning partner. You will know your learning partner's assigned name and contact information once you have been assigned a long-term student. Or if you would like to access the general learning partner inbox, you may do so by sending a message to learningpartners@classup.com. For all other operations-related questions and concerns, please send us an email to tutor-support@classup.com and you will receive an answer promptly. Thank you so much for watching today's recorded webinar, and we encourage you to join a live ClassUp new tutor orientation, if so possible, held on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays weekly. Once again, thank you so much for coming, and we look forward to watching your ClassUp careers grow.